Only beats.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Outside the Playbook. I'm Josh. He's Ryan. We're going to be talking about the NBA draft. I've been harping on this for the past couple months. I've been trolling. I've been teasing, plotting, scheming. But Detroit, with the first pick of the NBA draft 2021, they select Cade, Cunningham. How are you feeling about your squad? How do you feel they made out?
They didn't do anything stupid, so I'm happy.
And that's the least you can ask, right? That's the least you can ask of a professional sports team.
With their history, that's a big ask. But I'm happy. I'm happy with what they did. I was from the beginning just take number one, take Cade, and just call it a day. Don't try to make a trade or whatever, or try to make a blockbuster move. Pistons still have a young squad that, of course, needs development. I think, obviously Cade, I've been following him a little bit with Summer League. Obviously, he had mixed reviews on his debut. He started off good, but kind of started to struggle further on to that matchup with OKC. But I still think he's going to be fine. I think probably it's just a matter of, this is an NBA and the nerves that naturally come along with that. So just as he gets acclimated to the league, as he starts to get his feet under him a little bit, I think he's going to be fine, and I think he's going to be a major piece to what the Detroit team will look like within the next 5 to 10 years.
I think I like him and Killian Hayes playing together. Now, everybody was unsure about Hayes coming into last season. He did have a little bit of injury problems. But I like the way, I watched a little bit of that OKC game, a couple of, plays bringing up the ball, setting the offense, how they have a feel for the game. I think they're two very smart young guys. But I like what I'm seeing from them little by little. I think I'm going to like them starting side by side versus Cade starting at the one and Hayes coming off the bench. I want to see them together. I need to see that backcourt get a little bit of time, get a little bit of experience, because I think you have a dynamic where one is trying not to step on the toes of the other, or one is like, well, I want to let him do his thing. I want to see him get off and score and, facilitate. You got to get them in a situation where they can feed off of each other and know that it's okay, for one to take the lead and one to step back, or, vice versa, for them to be able to coexist, especially with Dwayne Casey's offense. Because, we know how he was in Toronto. He was able to get Lowry and DeRozan to play off each other and play the game together. I'm looking at, this could be the same type of scenario in Detroit. And you have a lot of other young guys around them. You still have Grant coming back. You have a lot of good pieces. And I like where that team is going. And I have them as the winners of the draft, because if you look all the way down, now this is what boggles my mind. At number 52 in the NBA draft in the second round, they pick up Luka Garza. Okay, now I don't know if anybody knows particularly who he is, but 6'11", went to Iowa, center, one of the best scorers in college basketball last year. Okay, and I believe he was the player of the year. And when I talk about best scorers, he can get you 30 and a half. I'm talking about, obviously, college game. He can get you 30 and a half, no problem. Back to the basket score, mid-range, pick and pop, spot up three. He was doing it all. And if he can play just an ounce of defense, I'm sure he can get a little bit of time, especially in Casey's offense. He's going to be able to spread the floor. A couple years down the road, he's going to be a good backup. Not a backup, back to the basket score, maybe that throwback big here and there, because he does have a left hook and a right hook once he gets his back to the basket. Like I said, he can step out to the mid-range. So I like that pickup, especially for what it looks like in the Pistons' offensive scheme, grand scheme of things. But yeah, I think Detroit, from that aspect, I think they won the draft. Rockets, Jalen Green. This kid, he reminds me of a young Jamal Crawford. And I'm not talking about, the Jamal Crawford we've seen his last couple of years, in Brooklyn or Phoenix. I'm talking about New York Jamal Crawford, Golden State Crawford, or Portland or Chicago, when that was an easy 20 piece coming off the bench 25 on a decent night, but he explode for 50 out of nowhere. Jalen Green has that explosive scoring ability, and he's one of those guys that's pretty unguardable. If you watch some of his movements, very quick, but he's very decisive and always under control. That's what I like, especially, that's what benefited him playing in the G League last year and having that big game experience. Wasn't exactly the NBA Finals or anything like that, but he did get some big game experience in the G League. So coming into this season, I think he's going to be a lot more comfortable playing against other grown men, having done so, already. But, I've just been watching him in the summer league. He can come off a screen and hit a jump shot. He can come down in a fast break, a couple of dribbles, and he's at the rim. He can finesse. He can go through you, get some contact. He can hit a step back three. He can pull up in the mid-range isolation. He can cross you. He has the right handle. He can go to his left and the right. There's really nothing offensively that he cannot do. Now, defensively, that may be remain to be seen because he hasn't really played against those elite guards. Like we talked about, he's going to be facing Dame, CP3, Russ. He's going to be facing some very tough guys to guard. If he can do that moderately on the other end of the basketball, I'm already thinking he's going to be a superstar in the league in the next 2 or 3 years. Looking at, eye to eye with the John Morants, the Donovan Mitchell, some of the other young stars in the league, I think you're going to be able to throw his name in that hat, in that under 25 best in the league conversation.
Yeah, I think Houston made a great move picking him at number 2. And, I peeped a little bit of game 1 of the summer league in that Houston game. And, Jalen came out playing like he was the number 1 pick.
Tough.
So he came out and made a statement for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the sky's the limit for him. Honestly, depending on how Cade develops, I think it could be between those two for Rookie of the Year. But again, it's really early to tell. I want to make sure, the season starts up and that'll give us a true knowledge base, a true evaluation of what they can do. But I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up, at the top, towards the top of his class in terms of Rookie of the Year voting. But yeah, Houston really got a significant piece, I think, for that team too, moving on from, the James Harden chapter and them, truly embracing kind of that rebuild, kind of trying to figure out who they are now, now that James is no longer there.
Yeah.
I think they needed a really solid foundational piece, and I think Jalen Green can really be not only a contributor, but he can really help form that new Houston Rockets identity now, because they're scrambling to find out who they are. And having him as a significant piece, I think really helps them start to form an identity of some kind.
And, you hit the nail on the head with the whole James Harden thing. Him leaving, you leave the door wide open for young guys to step in and possibly step into that leader role and take over where he left off. If you're looking at this team right now, you still have Kenyon Martin Jr., you have Kevin Porter Jr., John Wall is there. Christian Wood came out of nowhere last season. Before he got hurt, I was looking at them as a legit playoff team. He was playing very well. John Wall stays healthy. He stays healthy. They keep Cousins. If they, kept James Harden, that was a pretty decent team, a problematic team, but I like them trading all of the older vets and flipping them, turning them to younger assets. You add Jalen Green to Porter Jr., Christian Wood, Kenyon Martin Jr., and Jayshawn Tate. I like them a lot as a young team, exciting team, kind of like how I looked at the Bulls last year. You had Levine, Kobe White, Williams. I like watching. A lot of people won't watch, the bottom feeders, teams at the bottom of the league, because they like exciting basketball, good basketball, teams that are playing well. But I like watching a lot of the young guys get up and down, watch them make mistakes, watch them flourish at some points. But I want to see what the league is going to look like in the next 5 or 10 years when there's no LeBron, no KD, no Dame, no Russ, no Melo. When all these guys are gone, what's the next generation look like? And I think the Houston Rockets have a very good hold on that idea that we're going to look pretty good in the next 5 or 10 years going down the line. One of the other pickups, not really talked about, not really a big deal, but I like the pickup of Davion Mitchell in Sacramento, and here's why. So you have De'Aaron Fox, one of the fastest players in the league, with or without the basketball. He's underrated by a large margin. I think he's a lot better than people know and give him credit for because of how the Kings play and them not having televised games, but he's a lot better than people give him credit for. But what happens was when you draft Davion Mitchell, I don't want to say you make Hield expendable, but you can take the blow of that loss by adding Davion Mitchell and preparing for the next couple years. I think when you get rid of Buddy Hield, if they were to do so, all right, you come up off his contract where you say, did he really deserve that max deal? Because we haven't sniffed the playoffs, in years, in a really long time. We haven't even been there. So, is his contract justified? So you say maybe not. Okay, so you come off his contract and you add in Davion Mitchell. You possibly add in Ben Simmons, because I know that deal's been on the table for a little bit for the past week or so. But you still have Bagley. You still have Fox. You add Davion Mitchell. I think they can be a good young start. Maybe add in some vets around them. I know Harrison Barnes is still there. He was a decent vet. I think you want to start, a lot of these franchises, you want to start having a sense of direction of where you're going. You're probably not going to be in a championship conversation, but if you can plan, like I said, 5 to 10 years out, you're looking at an opportunity that when a lot of these older players, when they fade away, you can swoop in and be the next ones up. Look at Phoenix, Cam Johnson, Cam Payne, that's funny, I just realized, Cam Payne, whatever, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker. You prepared yourself for that 5-year stretch of when these guys may not be gone, and we've seen what happened in the playoffs when the older players weren't there anymore, when the superstars that would normally be in their path weren't there. There was no Golden State Warriors. The Lakers were out in the first round. You didn't really have to deal with that pushback of, by these all-time great players. So, Phoenix got ahead of the curve. Like I said, I like what Detroit did with Cunningham and Garza, adding him to Hayes, adding him to Bay and Grant. You still have Plumlee. Jalen Suggs to the Orlando Magic. He had that incredible shot for Gonzaga in the NCAA tournament to get them to the championship game. You add that to the Cole Anthony. I like Anthony a lot. I think Suggs and Anthony, they have that perfect balance, almost like a Dame and CJ complex. Damian Lillard is more so, he's an elite scorer. He's going to be, the first option, but a lot of times you see Dame, he's either going to make the right pass or the right shot, take the right shot at a particular moment, whereas CJ, he's going all the time. He's always going to try to put the ball in the basket every time he touches the ball. I like that dynamic because Cole Anthony, he's a better scorer than facilitator. Jalen Suggs is going to be a better floor general than a scorer in a lot of aspects of the game. So I like the way they match up together. Moses Moody to Golden State still remains to be seen if he's going to be a trade asset. You pair him with Wiseman and Wiggins. You send him to Philly, possibly get Ben Simmons. Is that enticing enough? I don't know, but I do like that pickup if they decide to keep him. Really, those handful of guys that I named, those are the ones that I was really impressed with. But like I said, Cunningham, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley goes to the Cavs. Don't really understand adding another guard when you're already so guard heavy. So I like what they did, picking up the backup center to Jared Allen. Makes Kevin Love expendable if you want to buy him out. So, I've seen a lot of situations where they're talking about maybe they're adding another point guard. I knew that was going to crash and burn if they did that. So I'm really glad they went for Evan Mobley. If I'm thinking about it, I don't know why they haven't moved Kevin Love yet. I don't know why they haven't bought him out at all, because you're clearly looking to get younger. You got rid of Tristan Thompson already. I don't think there's a single person over 31, 32 on their team besides Kevin Love. mean, why don't you just pull the trigger? Why don't you just let him walk and keep bringing in younger players and see what you can do? I mean, you're not getting another LeBron James anytime soon. Let's see what we can do with, with Sexton, and see what we can do with Darius Garland. But I like adding Mobley and solidifying Allen with that free agency deal.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Cavs held on to Kevin as well. I thought he would have been moved actually before last season. I thought that they may try to do something with him, but yeah, I agree. I think the Cavs should just continue on their trajectory of just, trying to get younger, trying to secure young talent like they have been over the last season or two.
Yeah.
Going back to Golden State, I do like what they did with number 7 and number 14. I know the fan base kind of has some mixed reviews there, but I think those two guys, have the ability to be contributors. I think anytime you put them around the caliber of player like Steph, Draymond, playing like these vets that have been championship level players and on a championship level team, I think they have nothing but potential, and I think they have nothing but opportunity to get better. I would kind of hate to see them be included in a trade deal. I up until this point, the Sixers' asking price for Ben Simmons has been extremely high. So who's to say that them plus a Wiseman and Andrew Wiggins would even be enticing enough for the Sixers to say okay to?
Well, you would have to throw in Jonathan Kuminga or Moses Moody in this situation to even make it remotely enticing, and then Philly would need to get somebody of a Damian Lillard caliber instead of just adding more pieces. You need somebody to fill that point guard role that can be a scoring guard. I mean, like I said, to even make that enticing, you got to throw the 2 rookies and a second draft pick from last year and Wiseman to even make that deal look remotely good, or possibly bring in a third team. But as far as the draft goes, I don't think they really did anything on draft night to help themselves. They could have made a couple deals. Maybe they could have picked up Scotty Barnes or Jalen Suggs, Davion Mitchell, or I don't know if the Rockets would have given up on Jalen Green for Simmons. Probably not. I don't see Detroit doing it. Even though, we waited for them to do something stupid. They didn't. There's not really many deals out there for Philly. So I like, for the most part, everybody staying put in the draft. Draft order, I think everybody actually in this draft did decent. Not great outside of Detroit and Houston. Everybody got what they needed. A lot of times you see teams, they just draft a random player and have no idea what to do with them. And another thing too about Orlando drafting Suggs, you don't know what Markelle Fultz is going to be like when he comes back from his injury. Hurt his knee, blew out his knee, so you don't know what he's going to look like, whether it's this season or later in the season or maybe next year. So you have that insurance policy. You could possibly trade Fultz somewhere if you don't want to keep him. So that's another reason why that move was one of the sneaky good moves, I'll say, of the draft. Cut.